Penultimate speaker for today and the festival is UI Art Director at 100 Star Games. She's previously worked as the lead UI artist at Rocksteady Games on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and a senior lead UI artist at Ubisoft on Trials of the Blood Dragon and Trials Fusion. Today, she's going to be sharing her journey from Singapore to AAA studios like Ubisoft and Rocksteady, and exploring the evolution of game UI, the roles of UX and UI in modern development. Please welcome Helen Kaur.
Woo, is my mic? Can you hear me? Okay, is it loud enough? Okay, now it is. Okay, hi everyone, welcome to my talk. Before I start, can I check if there are any UI, UX people who are actually interested in going into UI and UX? I will just stare at y'all then, okay, y'all? No, jokes. Okay. Hi, I'm Helen. I'm the UI art director at 100 Star Games. I noticed that my hair has all turned white since this photo, so I should probably update my LinkedIn at some point. Anyway, for this talk, I will take you all through my personal journey, through my career from Singapore to where I am now, and also talk about the different roles in UI, UX, and tech UI, and then also share some cultural things I've noticed working in different countries and different studios, and then, of course, portfolio tips. And then I'm quite ambitious with this talk, but I'm also going to go through evolution of game UI, through the history of UI, just quickly, just a quick one. And then also different types of UI. So you all are going to be some sort of UI experts, whether you like it or not, by the end of this. Okay, so this is some of my portfolio work. So it's a mix of game UI and personal illustration work as well. So over the time I've worked in game UI, I've always done my own side projects at the side as well. I've been in the games industry for about 15 years now. Like Satish mentioned, Rocksteady and Ubisoft and 100 Star Games at the moment. And yeah, so let's get straight into the beginning. So I'm from Singapore, if I didn't mention it yet. And I am the youngest of four sisters, so four of us. You can guess by the color tint of this photo, I am from 1900s. I heard that's what they say now. And then there's me, a Girl Scout, I think, or Girl Scout in secondary school, living my best life with that expression on my face. In secondary school, this is after secondary school with my Muppets t-shirt, but I've been a huge gamer since my dad bought us the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. So I was playing games throughout my childhood, like Sega, Genesis, and GameCube, and PlayStation, and PC games. So huge gamer. So after secondary school, I was I want to do something practical. So I looked through a bunch of courses in different polytechnics. And then I saw one course called Digital Media Design, and it had game design in it, and it said you can work in games with this course. And I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm going to apply to that. And my second choice was actually programming, which is quite funny, art or programming. I didn't really think things that much through at the time. Anyway, so I got in that course. My fate was not to be a programmer. And these are some of my course mates. I have that blue bomber jacket at the front, which I wish I still had. But yeah, some of them are still my good friends. Some are not. No, kidding. So course was really cool. We covered a lot of fundamentals, graphic design principles, and live drawing, color theory, and then 2D animation, 3D modeling. And then for the final project, we did a game on Quake engine. So this was Quake time. And this was 2001, and so I was a level designer for one of the levels in the game, and I was like, that's it, man, I want to be a level designer, that's it for me, that's so cool, I want to work in games. And then this is my little portfolio showcase, graduation showcase that we had. My colleague, if she's watching in the live stream, she asked me if that is a prop. The computer was a prop. I was like, no, those are actual computers from 2001, and it could run Photoshop, okay, and 3D Studio Max. So that was a CD-ROM of my portfolio in that And I, of course, had to have a lava lamp for no reason. But yeah, so then when I graduated, this is in Singapore at the time, there's not that much games industry at the time, so actually there was not any jobs really for me. So I was jobless for a while, and my mom was putting these ads on my table and stuff like to just get a job. So some of my friends got a job as a lighting artist for like some contract work for some kind of animation in Canada or something. So I just signed up. I could use 3D Max, so I signed up, and then it was like for 6 months or something. I think, I can't remember, it was so long ago, but after working with 3D Studio Max for such a, like 6 months in a row, I was like, I actually don't really like it. I don't think 3D is actually for me. I'm not doing it in my free time. Clearly, I don't really have the passion for it. So then I was like, oh well, I guess that's it then. And then I started to just apply for graphic design jobs because, okay, that's what I could do. So yeah, so I went into just graphic design instead. And then a couple of years later, 2008, so I was working as a graphic designer in a UX team. So that's when I was introduced to this world of user experience. There was like people who were like interaction designers who did degrees in like user experience, like whoa, it's a whole thing. So this is like smartphone era, you know, like mobile UX is huge, web design is huge. And I learned about, whoa, okay, there's this whole psychology to like the users. Oh, when are they using the app? Oh, it's when they're on the toilet, so they only have like 10 seconds to get the stuff done, or how to hook them really quickly. So it's really cool, really interesting. And we were doing work for Nokia, mainly at the time. And then Nokia kind of went, wee, and then they started doing layoffs, so I was like, okay, I have to find another job then. So I saw an ad for UI artists in a game studio, and this was a game studio that was making games on Facebook. So Farmville days, I was playing Farmville, so I was like, oh my God, yeah. And then I applied, and then I got that job because I had that UX experience, and of course also being a gamer. So I was like super happy that I got a job there. Then, so I worked there for about 2 years, and then people kind of stopped playing Facebook games. So then there were layoffs once again, and I had to look for a job once again. And then one of my colleagues there had joined Ubisoft, and she was like, hey, just apply here. We're looking for UI artists. And so in that studio, I was the first UI artist they hired. They didn't have anyone. It was 2D artists who was doing the UI, and they were like, take it, we don't want to do that. I'm like, okay. And then I applied to Ubisoft, did some interviews and art tests, and then I got that job. And I was like, oh my God, because it was like doing the trial series, which is like games for like PlayStation and Xbox. I was like, now I'm in the big leagues, I'm in the big dogs, like even to design the gamepad buttons like X, square and all, I was like, wow. So that was super fun, and then we shipped Trials Fusion, and to watch people playing the game, just stand behind their shoulder, like breathing, like, that's me who designed that menu. It was like super, they're not having any issues, yes. So that was like super, super cool. So I was there for a couple of years. I think this is already maybe 2015 or something. And then I was always drawing and doing my own illustrations in my free time, like printing T-shirts or trying to go to like art festivals and stuff. So my portfolio always had like the game UI work stuff, and then a lot of my own like personal projects as well. And I think because of that, then I got a little message from Rocksteady like, hey, we have a senior UI artist role. You want to have a chat? I'm like, yeah, like, I mean, these like Arkham games, so I had a chat with them, and then they offered the role, and obviously I had to take it. Like, so I moved to London, joined Rocksteady, and then I was there for like 7 years. Shipped Suicide Squad, crazy ride. That was a very good learning experience. And then the Rocksteady founders started a new studio, 100 Star Games, so I'm there, and yeah, I've been there for about a year plus, and yeah, really enjoying it there and having a good time. Shout out to my colleagues there. But yeah, so that's my whole career journey, which was a lot of twists and turns. And if you have any questions, of course, you can ask me more later. But now, we go into the jobs. So user UX. So what is UX means? It means user experience. In games, sometimes we also call it like player experience. So it's about figuring out the motivation of the player. So different people, we play games for different reasons. Some people play to relax, some people play for competition, some people play like, for me, like I like horror games also, just to, I don't know, make myself scared. So with that knowledge, you think about, okay, then how do we feed that information with how players are interacting with? And you also ask a lot, like, oh my God, my phone is, my watch is so excited, but you ask about, like, you know, how do they feel at this point? Do they feel how we want them to feel at this point of the game? You ask if the controls are consistent. You do all the wireframes. You do player tests. You iterate over and over again. So it's quite like it's everything before the visuals, basically. And yeah, it's about shaping the player's mindset, shaping their experiences based on the game that you are creating. So like a really good UX, it's invisible. When it's done really well, same with UI, you don't really notice it when you've done a good job, but when it's bad, everyone knows and everyone's gonna scream at you. So, and then UI stands for user interface. So it's when things become visual. So that's where I had been working a lot of my career. So if you have, sometimes they already have a style guide, so you just follow, okay, they've given you the font, the color, and everything, and you just create the layouts. You do have to have a good understanding of graphic design principles, color theory, layout design, and like, don't want to sound patriotic, but like common sense of what works and what's confusing to people. For me, I get frustrated very easily and confused very easily. So I think that makes me a good UI person, because if it's too complex, I'm like, I get very irritated. You will also have to think about motion because of transitions, like VFX as well. So sometimes you might have to do mockups in like After Effects and stuff like that. It really depends on the project. But motion is also really important with UI. So like if you have like background in graphic design, or even if you're not working in games, you can transition into games with this background. And then tech UI, it's more recent. It's kind of niche role. It's come up in the last few years because there are coders who have shifted more into tech UI, and then there are designers and artists who also shift into tech UI. So what does it mean? It's the people who make it actually work in the engine, in the game. So you have all the visuals. You'll take it, you break it down into components, you create your component library. You should have some knowledge of coding language, because a lot of blueprints use coding language. Sometimes this just comes up along the way while you're working on the job. And for me, like over the years, because I've been very visual, I actually really like this part. I started to do this a lot more in the last few years, because in Rocksteady we did implementation work. Sorry, I'm talking so much that I'm just losing my breath. Let me drink some water. Just talking about working Rocksteady. So it's a lot of, I personally really enjoy the tech side, because I think like it's really powerful when you can get things to work on your own without any support, and you can test it and you can iterate it over and over again until it's exactly how you want without asking a coder. Like I really enjoy that. And I think like understanding the boundaries of what you can do in the engine is really useful and valuable as a designer, because you know exactly what you're working with and how the visuals then translate and break down into the game. I think it's really powerful. And then the jobs will vary a lot, and the software also varies a lot, because it depends a lot on, well, what engine are they using. A lot of studios, they will use their own engine. Software for making wireframes, it depends. Some places use Figma, some might be XD, some is a free-for-all. Use Illustrator, InDesign, whatever you want, Photoshop. So the processes are quite different depending on the studio you join, and the job descriptions could be different as well. Sometimes they will say UI designer, but what does that mean? Do I have to do visuals, or is it just wireframes? Sometimes it's UI artist, but then they also ask you to do wireframes. So when you are looking at the jobs, it's good to just read the job description, ask questions like what exactly is needed. And for me, I have done a lot of different things in all the different UI jobs. In the Facebook job, I was doing Photoshop mockups and also implementation in Flash, which doesn't exist anymore. Rest in peace. And then in Ubisoft, I didn't touch the engine at all. They had their own engine, so I was just doing Photoshop mockups. In Rocksteady, it was everything. It was wireframe, mockups, implementation, animation, material, and over and over and over and over again. And actually, because I did that, I found that I really like working in the engine. So I think it doesn't hurt to just try things out and experiment, and you might surprise yourself what you might actually enjoy until you try it. So that seems to be a lot of my career, like, I want to be level designer. No, I don't. Okay, I will go through this quite quickly. So we just want to take you quickly through like the history of game UI from where we started to where we are at, so we can get like a bigger picture of like what's going on now and actually how much power we have now to shape the games however we want to. So 50s and 60s, huge lab machines in research labs and in unis, and some engineers were like, maybe we can actually make some games with it. So these were like the first games that were made by a computer. This one is called Space War, came out in MIT, multiplayer game. Then there was Tennis for Two, also built on like an oscilloscope. So that's like pretty cool. People just want to play in the end, right? At the end of the day, have fun. 70s, you had TVs. Everyone's TV started to be more affordable. We all know Pong. So there was a console called Magnavox Odyssey that launched, and then it didn't do very well because of marketing reasons and other reasons as well. Sorry? It didn't have any sound. Yes, it didn't have any sound as well. That was the main reason. They were like, trash, burn it. And then Atari came out, and then they had released a lot of games, and Pong was one of them. And then, of course, you have the high scores. I mean, not high score, just a scoreboard. Kind of like in real life, right? When you're competing, you're not going to keep track of your score. They're like, oh, yeah, we need to put scores here. And then 80s, you got the arcade era. So this is no internet days, okay? Like, you go to the arcade, and that's where, when you had the leaderboards there, and you see, like, who is that person? Who is AAA? Like, how did they get that score? So that was actually, like, really cool. So the developers realized, like, well, we want people to spend the coins. Let's put leaderboards, high score. So the UI of the high score became also motivation, because you wanted to get that name on the leaderboard for all the kids to see, even though they probably wouldn't know it was you. So anyway, also little cute icons, graphical icons right there, Pac-Man's lives and invisibility with the strawberries, still very cute. And then we had, of course, needs no introduction, Super Mario, really smart UX, because it's all through like level design, like you go forward, you can't go back. The sprite changes when you get bigger. It's like, oh great, you powered up, hit the glowing boxes. And because this is cartridge era, so the storage is really small, the bush and a cloud is the same texture. So they reused a lot of texture to make the most of the small storage space. And then, okay, simple HUD, let's just mention the UI. HUD means heads up display. It's like info that's just on the screen, just to throw it out there. Zelda was like, actually like an open world game. Back then, games is like start and game over. It was like open world, it had like a narrative, you could explore dungeons, it even had like inventory, and it introduced also save functionality on the cartridge. So I remembered it as you could save and it would give you a code, because I remember doing that. But I asked ChatGPT, and apparently it's not Zelda. So I don't know what has happened to my memory. But anyway, just had to mention, give shout out to Zelda, because this is like, many people consider this the start of the action-adventure genre. And then the 1990s, this is like my favorite era, Helen. So Helen, my friend Haley is the UI director at Lucid. So we've done this talk just about the history of UI before. So people used to confuse our name, call her Helen and me Haley. So we sat next together in Rocksteady. So we're like, then just call us Helen then. Anyway, so this was like my favorite era of games. So cartridges changed to CDs, more storage, bigger games, got cinematics, richer audio. So when the games were getting more complex, the UI had to be more complex to support all the information. Like, so you started to have more mini-maps and leaderboards, inventory systems. Also, Tomb Raider, not Tomb Raider, that's that one. Fallout had they actually started to skin the UI as well, according to the game, which was really cool. The Tomb Raider, I saved over my sister's save slot when I was young, and I thought I was going to die. So then I played it. I remembered where I played it exactly to that point, and then saved it. She never noticed. I was like, oh my God, that was like the worst thing ever. And then in the 2000s, at this time you also have, this is the time where I was working in UX, and smartphones, that whole field outside of games was getting huge, web design and all that. So games, of course, with the technology as well, all the consoles coming out, getting bigger and more complex. And so the UI started to, like the studios realized, like, okay, we need people who might actually specialize in this, because a lot of artists, they want to draw characters and environments. Like, we don't want to do menus, man. Like, can you just find someone else, just hire someone who actually does this? So that's when game studios started looking outside, and people like me managed to I got in. And then in the 2010s also, ooh, hello, 3D menus. So it's a kind of thing where you could, because we had the technology, so you could do anything, but do you actually want to do everything? So this was when, games were like pushing boundaries of oh, what can we do in menu? 3D menu. So when Dirt came out, it was like, wow, the main menu is like in 3D. Oh, we're back. And Brutal Legends as well. So it's really cool visually, but then functionally can be a bit irritating to use when you just want to go A to B. It's like, okay, now I have to sit through all these animations. So it's the battle of form versus function, which is a constant graphic design UI battle. Like, you can do everything, but functionality comes first at the end of the day. The UI is not the game is the game. And then a big game changer, of course, have to mention Dead Space. This is when the word diegetic also started coming out a lot. They have very good talk as well about this. But this is when, so the player, the character in the game, is looking at the UI, so it's like completely, fully integrated in the narrative. So UI artists really love this, because it's like, UI is more than just menus, okay? It's actually in the game, the health bar was the spine of the character. So, and to do this, it's really difficult and it's really challenging. So this was like one of those UIs that a lot of UI artists like myself really admire. And also, you can check out their GDC talk, because they really go through in detail how they designed it, and it was really cool. Had to mention also Destiny and their cursor, because so PC games use cursor, that's normal. Consoles, we use the sticks to navigate. So to use a cursor with the sticks, it is quite challenging, because you have a circle that's going all over the place. To make it feel really good and get in the buttons where you want it to, it is actually technically very challenging. So a lot of times when we use this, like in a map system, you would have a fixed cursor in the center of the map, and then even then, it's a challenge to get it to snap on the mission icons just right. So the fact that they did this, and they did it really well, and it worked really well for them, they also have a GDC talk about this. It also gave the UI people a lot of flexibility on oh yeah, we can just pop the panels up. It's not docked. We don't have to save screen spaces for information. So it was really cool, and was for UI people oh, cursor in a console game. Wow. And then after this game came out, a lot of other games also did cursors, but lessons were learned. It is not that easy, actually. And then I just made this slide. How was my time? Okay, it's good. This slide of just putting bunch of UI, because at the moment we can pretty much do anything we want to do with UI. I love the Star Wars series, the Jedi Survivor, because they use a lot of 3D assets with 2D, and it works really well functionally, and it's beautiful. graphic design, typography, fantastic in Hitman and Control. I love the illustrations in Hades, Hi-Fi Rush, crazy comic style. And then the VFX in Need for Speed Unbound and the new Street Fighter. It's like so funky and so fresh. And then to do like a monochromatic UI like that is brave, that is bold, and it suits the game really well. So I just want to show like there is so much that you can do, depending on the game that you're delivering, of course. Creatively, there's like so many directions you can go, and it is actually really cool, really fun. I just had to mention Persona, because when I play this, so usually when you design UI, you try to keep it, straight, aligned. Especially UI artists, we are very like, it's 4 pixels off, it's not aligned. And they were like, slanted text, like some text with a background, colors, but then it works. Like when you play the game, it works, and it suits the game really well. So I always like really respect studios and teams when they really push, like they just go out there and they do something so different and so creative. And then they nail it as well. They nailed it so well that you know you have made it as a UI person, and someone even actually cosplay your UI. It's like, wow, amazing. Okay, UI categories. Now we go a little bit technical. I told you all will know so much about UI, whether you like it or not. But so in the 2000s, there's this talk about a lot of UI categories. It came from game design, kind of discourse, I guess it's called. And then Christine Jorgensen, she published a research paper and then a book, and she further explained these 4 different categories and why do we want, like, why even talk about this? So when you are designing a game, or like the UI, the experience of the game, firstly you think, what kind of game are you making? Why are people playing it? What's the experience you're trying to deliver? And then with these categories, it helps us to like also communicate that to the rest of the team, like, okay, we're doing a diegetic UI because of these reasons. And it doesn't have to be like rules, like it's only one or the other, you mix and match. So non-diegetic, or I don't know, is it GIF, diegetic? So diegesis, I don't know if I'm saying right. It comes from the Greek word narration. So non-diegetic, and I saw ChatGPT, or my colleague says Jackie Chan, told me that the non-diegetic and diegetic term comes from film, where about audio, whether the person in the film hears it or the audience. So this is the most common UI. It's just information for you, the player. Oh, here's your inventory, this is the start screen, here's your settings. Not saying it in a boring way, it is important. But, and then you have this is a mod of World of Warcraft. Because some people, they are like, I need all the information, tell me everything that's happening now on the screen. So it's like the most flexible kind of UI to build, because you can build it seamlessly while the game is being developed. And even if the game design changes, you can tweak it. You usually don't skin it until a bit further along when the style guide comes. So most games, like, it's pretty standard to have. You pretty much have to have it usually for start menu or settings, this kind of stuff. So then you have the diegetic UI. So this is more like the Dead Space example. So it is UI or information that the character in the game is looking at. So I've been playing Silent Hill 2 Remastered, and it's like a horror game, so obviously they want to keep you in the horror, in the tension. There's no escape. You can't go out, you can't press back and go into back menu. Okay, you can pause, but Alien Isolation is another great example. They want to keep you in the fear. They could put this all as just basic graphics on the screen. Yes, they could, but no, of course you choose that because I want you to be scared of the alien. And then Alan Wake, their whole like menu, when you go into this mind place, because you are playing a detective, so they've made this whole detective wall that you look through and all the cases, which is really cool, and it works really well as well. And of course, Fallout example, once again, they've been doing like, they've actually been skinning their UI from the start, haven't they? The Pip-Boy, it's a, you know, the character is raising their wrist and looking through the menus there. Actually, futuristic games get away with it because they can put holograms in the game, so it's like, God damn it! Holograms, of course that works. And then they also released an actual Pip-Boy that you could buy and connect it to the game, which is pretty sweet. Spatial UI, so this is information that is in the environment. So when you're playing a game, you're looking in the level, you're looking at where to go. So it's nicer sometimes to put the information in the place you're looking, so your brain doesn't have to process like, oh, icons popping out, text. Inside the game, what's happening? It's a lot of cognitive load. So using spatial UI is a good way to kind of relieve that load for your brain. So obviously, sparkles don't exist in Red Dead Redemption in the cowboy world. But okay, it's for tracking. You as a player, you get it. It's fine. Like I don't care that it's what could be the actual thing in a Western world. The text I took a screenshot when the guy was getting shot, and then I was like, I'm not gonna look through more footage. But I really like in Splinter Cell, all their missions and stuff, the text was appearing in the world. I actually haven't checked how they localized it. I would be curious to see how the text would be in other languages. Left 4 Dead, body outlines, that's a very common spatial UI, interactions, outlines around objects, and then, what's it, gates, I guess? I think, what did I take that from? Need for Speed? I think I took that from, oh yeah, look at the funky VFX. That I knew it's Need for Speed Unbound. You got meta. Meta is a bit more, not say complex, but sometimes I get confused by this category, but it is information for you, the player, but kind of trying to follow the narrative. So example is blood spatters or camera effects when things break. So it kind of feels like it's not like a health bar. It's still kind of telling you that, hey, you're going to die, but still like within the narrative of the game. And then speeding games, racing games use a speedometer a lot, like from the dashboard. I think I took this from GTA 4, where he has that phone, so he's looking at the phone. So it's not like, oh, let's move the camera to the guy. Let's just put the phone there so you can see what he's looking at. So it kind of still connects to what he's doing. You could, just put text on the screen, but that's like a lot cooler. And then Indiana Jones has this camera lens. However, this could also kind of be diegetic, because they did use a lot of diegetic, but it's just semantics, I suppose. But ultimately, with these 4 categories, you mix and match when you are developing a game, depending on what you're trying to do, what kind of game you're trying to make, what you're trying to communicate to the player. And you want the player to just have the best, coolest experience for the game. And this is why now you are all UI experts. So I hope when you see a diegetic UI, you'll be like, this is diegetic, actually, do you know? So I go a bit into working in different cultures. So like I got born and raised in Singapore. So I've always been a minority, even in Singapore, because Singapore is like majority Chinese population. And I'm an Indian person. My name is Helen. Don't ask me why my father called us all English names. I think it was to assimilate, but I'm like, an Indian Punjabi person. And even within the Indian population, it's mostly South Indian, so we were still minority of the minority. So for me, I'm very used to just not fitting in. I suppose it hasn't really been like you notice it sometimes when you are like in a meeting, you're like, oh yeah, okay. But I'm just kind of used to it, and I just go for things anyway, regardless, because I've always lived my life this way. But one thing I've noticed coming from Singapore, and then working in Finland at Ubisoft, and then in London, is like, there are certain traits that are different. The way people communicate is different. Sense of humor is different. Sometimes some jokes in some places, when you go somewhere, is like rude or directness as well. Like, I think I'm sometimes indirect, and then sometimes I'm too direct. Like, if someone sometimes asks me a question, and then I'm really comfortable with them, I might be like, huh? And then I realize that might come across as a bit rude. If I'm like, huh? But in Singapore, I guess we just say, huh? But it's not like, I didn't mean to come across as rude. And also the directness thing, for me, when I worked in Finland also, and then I noticed like, oh, okay, if someone, they don't like it, they just say, I don't like it. Oh, okay. But it's actually just how they communicate. So I learned like, okay, I have to just, okay, firstly, don't take things so personally. Give people, like, understand that people are different. They don't mean to personally offend you. Sometimes they're just gonna say things more directly or more bluntly or something like that. And then just be more observant. And then also just have like kindness to other people. Like just give people benefit of the doubt. Like especially working in games, you will work from people from so many different countries. And people are gonna say things, communicate things in a different way. And sometimes it might be, wow, he's so rude, wow, he's so blunt. And maybe sometimes it is. Like maybe sometimes it is, but it's about that like, okay, let's just give them space, give them time, or like be kind, be open-minded to it, because a lot of working in games is like highly collaborative. You have to work with other teams like all the time, and like you have to be talking to people all the time, UX to UI to tech UI to coder to character environment, like everything always like kind of loops around. So collaborating with other people and being like nice to people, although it sounds so weird to say, it's really important. Actually, I can give you one more example. So like my friend Haley, she's from Hull, or she's Hull, and I lived with her also, she was my housemate. So she would ask me like, oh, do you want to eat this place after work? And I'll say, yeah, I don't mind. And I mean, actually, yes. Like, I mean, I don't mind, as in like, I don't want to give a forceful yes, but yeah, I don't mind. And she thought the whole time, I was like, yeah, I don't mind, but no. She thought I was being more like, yeah, well, yeah, I don't mind, like in a negative way. And it was only after like, I don't know how many months, and she asked me something, I was like, yeah, I don't mind. And she was like, do you know this whole time, I thought it was actually you that you didn't want to go, like, or that you were like forcing yourself, so I didn't do, or we didn't go to the thing. I was like, what? I just meant it in like not a forceful yes, but a yes, yes. So there are a lot of these kind of small, weird things that happen sometimes. And then communication, which is, I mean, piggyback on that, is something like I still work on. So growing up in Singapore is like, in the 80s, like you, in the classroom, you put your hand up like to say something. You don't just like, just shout things out. It's kind of disrespectful or rude to like, especially if there's someone who's like your teacher or something, it's seen as quite like rude to be like, oh, I think this, I think that. It's like, oh, who do you think you are, kind of thing. So then when I worked in Finland, in like Ubisoft, and then in meetings, I was just like, just, you know, but nobody's gonna ask me anything. So I was just quiet a lot of the time, and I didn't even think to say anything that I should even say anything, because nobody asked my opinion. So I don't know, I don't have an opinion. And then I kept getting performance reviews that like, you need to speak up more, you need to share your opinion, we wanna know what you think, that's why we hired you as a designer. And I had to like unlearn that whole thing, like, okay, I do have an opinion. I have an opinion somewhere, like to like be really, I made this rule to myself that in every meeting, I will say one thing. And it was really, and also I'm an introvert. I know I'm standing here blabbering away, but I'm actually quite an introvert as well. So it's like this extra layer of like, oh my God, this is so hard. But yeah, I had to learn to slowly find my voice and like retrain my brain to like, yeah, like I have opinions, I can share them as well, and it's not rude to like jump into conversations, and to also like, sometimes even if my idea I think is stupid, is my idea stupid? Because I don't want to look stupid. Like, I'm new in this company, what if I say something that's like really silly, and they all laugh at me, and then they're gonna like think, oh my gosh, she doesn't know anything, and like this kind of thoughts in my head. And I had to like, no, it's okay to be like, okay, I have this idea, let me just throw it out there. And maybe they'll be like, technically impossible. And you're like, okay, cool, now I know. Like, at least you put it out there, you learn from it. And sometimes it happens, you throw an idea, and maybe they're like, but then someone's like, well, if we took that thing, we can actually also do that. And then you could build on that. So I think it's difficult, maybe it's just me thing, but just wanted to say it in case there's like other people who also like struggle with being an introvert and like saying things. Okay, job ads. Okay, so I'm talking more for visual portfolios. So doing your own projects is very important, not just your schoolwork, because it's gonna show your passion in like what you wanna do. And doing tutorials, it never ends. Like, it's not like after school it finishes. It never. How many software I have used that is long gone and dead? Like, it's constant, and the engines you use, they are updating all the time. There's just so many updates. So I am doing tutorials all the time as well. I'm doing like Unreal tutorials constantly. So keep learning, keep just taking online tutorials and then just doing projects. I mean, Unreal and Unity are free. So I think, for me, I personally think like working in games is a technical job, so the more you understand the engine, even if you're an artist, the more, it depends if you want to go like strictly concept artist, but when you understand the engine and how it works, it's gonna give you also that extra zhuzh in your CV. Just do some tutorials, just do it. Come on. And then I think also showing your process behind your work. So not just here's something, especially for design work, how you thought about it, how you went through, like here I did this, and then I learned that this, that, and then I did this thing and that thing, and then it helps us to see, oh, okay, this is how you process things, this is how your brain works. Because when we hire someone for design, we want to know how you're actually thinking, and not just like, here's an image. So showing your processes, like if you have sketches and then how you got to the final thing, just write just a little bit, just a short paragraph or something. It's really good for us to read that. And then for me, what I did also was, I looked for artists in like big studios. Like I think when I was in Ubisoft, I was looking at Naughty Dog. There was a UI artist, I think, I know her surname is Neonakis, but I was looking at her portfolio and like just thinking, she was doing a lot of illustrations in her free time. I was like, oh yeah, she's like me. And just thinking like, oh, that's so cool. So looking at benchmarking to existing people in the industry, in studios that you really like, and trying to, this is a skill you will develop in time, but critical analysis of your work to see, okay, what am I missing? Is my colors off? Am I just not rendering this right? It will come with time. That whole thing will come, especially when you're working. But that might be something that would be also cool. And when you, like, the rejections will happen. I've been rejected so many times. So sometimes maybe ask for feedback, if it's possible. It kind of sucks, like what did I do wrong? I don't like it. I don't like to know like what did I do wrong. But it's kind of giving you like, hey, this was what we needed. And sometimes it's also like maybe they were really looking for something completely different, and it really wasn't anything personal. So then you feel a little bit better, like, oh, okay, it actually wasn't me. But that might be also something that might give you some useful information. And you might not land like your super big job straight away. Like I did not even think I will work in games or stand here talking to you. Absolutely not. I never thought about it at all. So if you can kind of ballpark it, like just kind of swing in the direction, just get something, gain that experience, because all the experience really matters, like especially in design. Because you want to learn the design process, like how it goes from start to end product, and how the team works. Like how from a wireframe it goes to here, then it goes to here, and then the end product, and then, oh, happy user, or sad user. Ugh. So that whole process is still valuable, and it's the same. Even if like it's not in games, it's still kind of the same process. So it's still valuable. And then also in interviews, like some questions would be, what are your favorite games and why? And then if it's in that specific field that you're applying, which game has that you really like? Or which game, if you are like in audio or UI, which game has it that you are maybe not so happy with? And what would you fix? And what would you improve in a certain game? That's always a good one, like, because it shows like, for me, when I ask about this UI question, it shows whether they actually were looking at UI in games or not. Like, are you actually interested in UI or not? Because if you were, you would be straight away like, this game did that game did that, and then I know like, okay, this one is definitely a UI head. Follow your passion, and your passion might change over time. Like for me, like it might go here, it might go there. Follow what really gives you excitement when you feel actually excited to open the software or to do the tutorial, what you want to do in your free time. Just keep working on it, keep doing those projects, and like sometimes like it can be intimidating when like I'm in a meeting room and I notice like, oh, I'm actually the only woman or something, and you're like, oh, okay. But you know, like all of us matter, like all of us, we all have different experiences, we all have lived differently, we all come from different places, and all of your experience, you all bring something valuable to the table. Like we are making like video games. So everything that everyone has is something cool and interesting. Like something that Meg will share is not going to be the same as what I will share. So it's all like, you all like belong in this industry. You just want to put it out there, and your voice matters. And I had to you know, when Frodo, they were in the cave of Moria, and Frodo was like, I don't want this ring, I wish it never came to me. And Gandalf was like, this part really touched me, you know. He said like, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that we have. Because our life, we think that, okay, I'm going to not to be too dark. Life is short. Just do what it is you want to do, follow whatever it is that you want to follow, work hard, and then, ta-da, you know, your path might not be straightforward, but there is a path, so just keep walking it. Thank you, it's finished. Thank you. Yeah, and then, yeah, thank you for listening. Now you're all certified UI people. I'll give you certification, I don't know. So yeah, that's my Blue Sky and LinkedIn. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, great. That was awesome. So if anyone's got any questions, I think we've got time for a couple.
So Suicide Squad wasn't very well received. Can you
No.
share? Can you share your experience, like working in the studio with a game that's not getting good reception?
I mean, you mean like when it was released or before it was released?
Both. I mean, like.
I mean, it's like, so usually when you work in games, usually you don't pick what project you work on. You work on the thing in the project, and whatever project is given, you just do your best in what it is. Of course you want the game to do well, because when you're working on it every day, you're thinking about that you want the player to have fun. That's the main thing why we work in games, because we want to make fun, we want to make the players have fun. So when it's like, you work so many years on something, and it's like, of course it was like really, really like heartbreaking. Like, but then you can kind of understand as well, but it is also heartbreaking. So it was for me a lesson that I learned to try not to be too emotionally involved in what I'm doing. Like, I know it's a job. At the end of the day, I show up, I do the best I can, I try the best I can, but there's things I can't control. And then I just like, yeah, it was quite a big lesson for me. And of course I was almost thinking like, like getting a bit burned out, and like when you almost get like a slap in the face, that like, why would I even do this as a job, right? When you don't get, not only you don't get well received, but you get like hate. Yeah. It's like, it kind of sucks. But then I guess I'm a bit like rebellious, so I also like, whatever, I'm still going to do what I want to do because it's my life, and I'm still going to follow my own thing that I like to do. And I've been playing games for such a long time, and he's given me so much in my own life, so much happy memories, like playing overnight with my cousin in the whole secondary school. Like, my sisters were out clubbing, they would leave, they come back from the club, we are still playing like Cool Borders 3, like non-stop the whole night. So those are like such good memories for me, and I think I wouldn't have become a designer if not for games, because with games it's all like analytical skills, and you're thinking how to beat the design, right? So in the big think picture. I think in the big picture that for me, this is what games has given to me, so I'm gonna just keep working in that industry, come what may. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, got another question?
Hi, I'm a sound designer.
Yeah.
And you said it's really good to be able to work in Engine because then you can get it exactly how you envision it. I was wondering if you also have like a really strong idea of how it's going to sound as well.
Yes.
And if you like kind of like almost like give it like a really specific brief to sound designers.
So usually with UI people, when you talk to them, when they show you the animation, they will make the sound effects at the same time. I don't know why, it's all whooshing, and then whoosh, or whooshing, whoosh, but of course, the sound designer knows best, because that's why they are there, they are the experts. So usually when I work with UI in the sound, then I go to the booth, to their audio room, and I'm like, okay, then this, and and then they are, okay, you can go now,
I think we also do that as sound designers.
yeah, ours is more, I think, layman version. But just to give the feeling, we just try to give, what's the feeling we're trying to give when the thing, poof, and then it's up to them.
We'll squeeze them both in. It's kind of quick. I wanted to know, do you feel that you are like working within the parameters that hardware and software set, or do you feel that you mold your ideas around hardware and software? Like, does it restrict you? How much does it restrict you? And like, what compromises have you made? And what innovations have you made? And then a kind of bolt onto that is like, what does the future feel like? Because hardware and software is in a really interesting space.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a little insight on those bits.
Yeah, so with the game itself, is always the engine, what engine is being built on, and what tools the engine have for UI, and or do they need the tools to be built by the engine team. And then there's the other side where you're concepting the UI itself. So when we go in the UX and the UI side, then we can do whatever we want to do. Like I can use Photoshop, After Effects. Then I think Rive is popular also for mockups, and then or Figma. Then I do whatever it is that I want to do because that's my area. But once it goes in the engine, then you have the technical constraints of the engine. So usually, for example, with like diegetic stuff that is like in-game things, that one has a lot of dependencies on other teams, like animation, the modeling asset, the lighting, the environment. So with that one, when you have a concept or an idea, so the flow usually goes like, I have an idea for a skill tree, I want it to be like this happens. Then you go to the team or the design, and you're like, the design team or the rest of the team, and you're like, this is my idea, what I want to do, or the art director. And then it's a team discussion. And then the creative director also obviously chimes in. It's like, is this the direction we want to go for? Then maybe you prototype it, and you see how it works in the engine. And then from there, you push things, okay, we can't do that. That one, we will need something, we don't have the time for that. And then you have to compromise stuff. So it starts with what you're trying to do, and then it goes to discussions, prototyping in the engine, and then you see the give and take over there. Does that explain? Yeah. Okay, great.
One more question.
Yeah?
What's one piece of advice that you would give someone who has no experience as a UI artist and wants to break into the industry?
Okay.
Portfolio advice, maybe?
Yeah. Cool. So what I see, which is very cool, is that people who, let's say, do you like have graphic design background, Photoshop and stuff? So one cool thing I've seen for people who obviously you have not worked in games, you don't have game UI portfolio. Take a game that you really like, and then just, because the games that exist, they have already a design, take the design out and make your own version of it. Because that's what you are doing in the actual job. Designers are going to come to you with like, we want an inventory system. It needs to have these categories. You want to be able to preview it in 3D and then go back, and that's the feature, and then you got to design it. Yeah. So you can take what is there in the game, or things that, which is tricky, like if you take stuff that's like, I don't like it, so I'm going to make it better. That one is a bit, I would say, just take something that you make your own variation of it, and then write your reasoning behind it. I've seen that for portfolios, and it is quite impressive.
Okay. Well, thank you. Big round of applause for Helen Kaur.